Hey, good evening. It's Thursday, September 5th, and welcome back to Everyday Talk 24/7. We're going to continue looking at the impact of the fear of the Lord, why it's so important for us to grasp the significance of the fear of the Lord. Especially when we look at the tragic events of yesterday and we see young people involved in these horrific actions. We need to be concerned about the fear of God, because the Proverbs say that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, the foundation of wisdom. Or as I say in the thumbnail tonight, the title, the fear of the Lord is the foundation of life. See, who is God? God is the one who made us. He's the one who causes the sun to shine on us right now. In the background there, you can't see them very well, but there's some cows in the high grass. He gives us all our next breath. He holds the stars in place. He holds the planets in place. He directs all the affairs of life, both what we can see and what we can't see. To not talk about God, to not live in awe and fear and reverence of Him, is in fact to be uneducated. It moves us away from the purpose of life. So Solomon begins this book of Proverbs, of wise sayings, which cover all the dimensions of life. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. But fools, and again, remember the Bible's definition of a fool is one who lives and acts as if God does not exist. And you see, we have an entire education system, from K through postgraduate, which is predicated on the basis that God does not exist. We are taught that God is a product of the human need for religion, rather than the reality that God is the source of life itself. So why is this important for the well-being, for the mental health, for the spiritual well-being of our children? God is the one who sets the boundaries and directions for relationships. He knows how we function best. So He gives us guidelines, directives, laws, commands, principles, teaching, not to keep us in line, but to keep us functioning well with Him. And we understand right and wrong in that context. We're not violating a list. We're going against the way that God has made things. If we don't have an awe of God in relationships and we honor ourselves first, then we will live for people in relationships. And we see how dangerous that is. God is the one who gives us work. He gives us the ability to think. He's given us tools, resources, skills, abilities to work. He's commanded us to work. Work is His idea. If we're not in awe and reverence of Him, then our view of work will all be messed up. We think we're work for ourselves. We think that this is an experiment. But it's not. And then thirdly, God is the basis of education. The purpose of education is to do things which bring honor to God, which help us build relationships, which help us work effectively. Education needs to come third in that category. Relationships and work, and now education, so we know what we're being educated for. See, I don't learn by doing. I learn for doing. I learn so that I can honor God, so I can live a life of purpose. If we learn for ourselves, for our own interests, then we will become self-serving, and we will have no fear of anything except not pleasing ourselves. And we're seeing the havoc, the destruction, the tragedy that brings into our way of life. Because we have children who think the purpose of life is to find what they want in life and do it best. That's not what God's purpose is. Purpose is to find what God wants for us and our children and do that well, trusting God's ways and God's purposes, God's plans, God's His word. See, children who learn for themselves become users, become takers, because they're taught that way. But if we learn for honoring God, then we can become servants of God and care for other people. This is what Jesus says are the two greatest commandments. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, mind, soul, and spirit, strength. And the second is like it, love your neighbor in the same way. See, that's what education needs to be about. If education becomes self-oriented, then the power of the human spirit becomes a force of great destruction and sadness. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, beginning of wisdom. It's the foundation of life. If we don't teach our children that, if we don't believe that, then we turn ourselves into people who are only concerned for serving ourselves. And that's where the great tragedies of life come from. Like yesterday. A young man who possibly thought he was doing the right thing to make something right. It wasn't the fear of God. I pray that we will see what God has for us. The fear of God is the beginning of life, the beginning of wisdom, the beginning of hope. Again, that's the thought for this night. Love your thoughts, your feedback. This is important for us. It's the very stuff that life is made of. That's why Solomon starts with it. It's the foundation of life itself. Thank you for being here. Love your thoughts, your interaction, your feedback, and Lord willing, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Good night.